Hello and good afternoon. My name is Cody Sire, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. Welcome to the session of Improving Student Success Through Early Intervention, Insights from an August 2024 Pilot. As a reminder, this session is scheduled to end at 3:55 Eastern, and the presenters are going to speak for about the first 30 minutes or so, and then we'll have time for questions as well as questions throughout the presentation. So please feel free to utilize the chat for that. The app will close at the end of the session, and you'll be able to access the lobby and other sessions in your internet browser. Following this presentation, the next session begins at 4 p.m., followed by trivia at 4:20, and you won't want to miss that. I'm thrilled to introduce your presenters today, Dr. Rachel Vigness, Assistant Dean of Student Success and Accreditation from the Worldwide College of Business, Dr. Kelly Stelter, Senior Director of Academic Advising with the Worldwide College of Business, and Dr. Peter O'Reilly, Associate Professor of the Practice with the Worldwide College of Business. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you, Cody, for that wonderful introduction. It is fantastic to be here with everyone today and share more about a very interesting project that we endeavored here in the College of Business, along with our partners in the College of Business Academic Advising Department, in helping to kind of explore what type of student success, early intervention strategies we might adopt in the hopes to improve and support all things student success. So I'm really excited to share a little bit more about that project today and some of the activities that we and different initiatives that we have tested out through that August term. So today we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll tell you a little bit about the push-pull approach technique that we used. We'll identify some of the resources that were established to support our faculty in this way and our students, as well as our advisors. There's some really great, exciting new tools and existing tools that are currently available to us. So we will speak to some of those, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with some next steps, what we've done with the project thus far, and of course, open it up to any questions that you have of us as we talk through this early intervention strategy. So with that said, I will ask for any questions that you have throughout and during the presentation. You are more than welcome to ask them in the chat. We'll try to address them real time and live throughout the session. And then, of course, as we have time at the end, we'll certainly be able to speak and address those later in the presentation today. So Cody did, again, such a fantastic introduction of those that are joining me in today's session today. Again, Kelly, Peter. This is just a fantastic collaboration between colleges, between the Student Success Department, and a lot of supporting behind the scenes departments. So we'll go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit more about what this project was all about. So for those faculty, and I do see a few faculty names on the attendee list, you probably know that, when the term kicks off, oftentimes we get into the classroom, and again, there's a lot of different academic performance checkpoints throughout the term, whether it's weekly grading or perhaps we look at academic performance at the midpoint of the term. And then, of course, we all know at the end of every term, we go through that process of issuing final grades. What we wanted to think about very strategically and in partnership with our advisors is how we could better and more efficiently optimize those touch points that we have throughout the term and really break down the silos and barriers between different departments that perhaps know a bit of the story. So we all know that students know a bit of the story. Sometimes our advisors know part of the story, and oftentimes the faculty know a different part of the story. So the whole point of our MAP initiative, which is again monitoring academic progress, was really to partner together, again, that triangle, if you will, and explore how we might take a more push-pull, and I'll leave it to the rest of the presentation here to talk a little bit more about what that all involved. But nonetheless, utilizing a push and pull strategy that would help us get closer to what ultimately was our arching goal. Advisors want to see students succeed, faculty want to see students succeed, and ultimately students enrolled in their class to get that grade at the end of the term and ultimately graduate. So one of the overarching goals to this entire process was to support all things student success and retention in our classroom. If we break down that goal into four kind of key objective areas, we felt that there's multiple different things we could tackle with this one particular initiative. And again, this was just a pilot effort. We'll talk a little bit more about the details on how that was carried out. But nonetheless, there were four main objectives that we wanted to explore as we worked together. And the first and foremost was we know Embry-Riddle has some fantastic student resources in academic support. And so really part of the goal of this initiative was elevating those resources and creating awareness for the different support tools that are available to our students. We also wanted to ensure that we could support students that were perhaps in that classification of an at-risk category. So we were hoping that through this effort that we could perhaps improve academic performance for those students that perhaps had a challenge in front of them that we could help them overcome. And then remember in the previous slide, I mentioned that triangle between the faculty, student, and the advisor. Our third objective of this initiative was to, again, take down those barriers and create some collaboration between those three stakeholder groups. And we'll talk through some of the different tools that we utilize to help us get there. And then again, as I mentioned, and as we will open today's session with and close today's session with, the fact that we were really hoping to see student retention and success rates improve through the different initiatives that we explored. And I don't want to, let the cat out of the bag too early. However, what I will share with you is there were some really exciting results that came out of this initiative. And so stay tuned to the end. There's your little bit of teaser. Stay tuned until the end and you'll hear more about what those success factors were. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who's going to talk a little bit more about the actual pilot itself and how we kind of created this framework from which to explore some of the different processes that we utilize. So Kelly?
Thanks, Rachel. It's good to see everyone. Thanks for attending. So as Rachel said, we collaborated and identified some areas in which we could increase the at-risk student population and contribute to their success in the classroom and further support them on the academic advising side. And so in the collaboration, we identified three different courses for the August 2024 term that were only going to directly impact our College of Business students. We wanted to think a smaller target population so that we had more control in the environment and through the support, the collaboration, the data analysis piece, and then of course the reporting. And so we looked at three courses, starting with our BUSW 335 course, our LGMT 430 course, and our BUAN 302 course. Again, only looking at a smaller population and those that would directly impact our College of Business students. We met with the advisors and site directors that are supporting our College of Business students and talked them through what this engagement in this pilot was going to look like. We identified key intervention points. The key intervention points that we identified collectively were to be proactive, assess at a midpoint, and then wrap it up for a strong finish as we're nearing the end of the term. So we identified what we referred to as a -2 starting point. And that -2 starting point involved our faculty. So our faculty worked very closely with Rachel in identifying what their role was going to look like and how they could support the student in the classroom while working collectively with the advising team and the students. The next touch point was at week 2, where the faculty and the advisors had a heavy role in working with the student. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that looked like in a few slides moving forward. At week 4, we identified our midpoint and what that looks like, how we can support those students. And then again at week 8. As far as the pilot and what we encountered at each one of these midpoints, at each one of these intervention points, they included activities, they included outreach, included different performance checks on both the faculty and the advising side, and along with some monitoring and some evaluation. So it was a holistic collaborative approach, as Rachel said, between our faculty, our advisors, and the students. So we'll move to the next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Peter to get us started on our push approach.
Thanks, Kelly and Rachel. Everybody on this will be on your final, so pay close attention to all this. I've been involved with the We Care program for the last couple of years, and I think it's one of the great advantages is showing students that we work as a team to not just help them succeed in a course, but in the college career. And it has truly been a team effort on this. So I want to just highlight some of the push aspects of this. As you heard, we break it down into second, fourth, and eighth weeks on them. The key thing on week 2 is identifying not just at-risk students, but maybe other students who are struggling. But we start off with looking at the dashboard and getting ahead of this to find out who are the potential at-risk students. And with that, I particularly have a one-on-one with all my students. So I focus in on that second week on basically asking students, why are they struggling? And I follow it up with a conversation with the advisor, because as I said, up early in the semester, it's good to have all 3 members of the triangle involved in the process. And I think the student really appreciates, from my experience, having somebody, I do a Zoom session, so that personal contact goes a long way with starting it up. And as Rachel and Kelly said, we get to week 4. That's a key thing, because we have monitored a couple of weeks how they did. So we have a good idea if they're still struggling, interacting with the advisor and the student to see what's going on, what else do we need to help them move forward on that. This semester, I have 3 at-risk students, and those Zoom sessions and the academic advisor is going a long way at the midterm to show them that we're here for the long haul, and we expect them to help us succeed. So it's a team effort. And we get to week 8. It's sort of at the end of the semester, but we want to make sure they finish in a strong way, and we want to make sure that we can motivate them, because let's face it, in week 8, week 9, there's finals, there's term reports, so that could have a major impact on the final grade. So getting the team involved in week 8, say, look, finish strong, it's to your benefit, and we're here to help you. That's the push end of it. Now for the pull, we have Kelly.
Thanks, Peter. So the pull comes into play where our advising team is monitoring the student performance. So from term start progressing all the way through term end, the advisors were being intentional during our pilot to check in at that week 2, week 4, and week 8. And as Peter said, the push approach, part of it involved relying on the faculty to submit the contact advisor, so sending that alert over to the advisors to investigate, so to speak, to take a holistic approach as to what may be going on and what piece of the puzzle that we would have to contribute. So as Rachel said in the beginning, that triangle is the student, faculty, and the advisor. And I always say the advisor is along for the long journey. We engage with our students from admission all the way through graduation. And they touch a lot of different faculty points along their journey. And the faculty have an intricate and so important role during that 9-week period, which I like to look at and reference as like a snapshot. And so you guys are closest to the action in that moment. So it takes all three to contribute to what that student story looks like. And so throughout the pull approach, the advising team was keeping an eye on that student performance while relying heavily on some feedback and some information that was being shared with us. And then circling back with the student, involving the student and hearing their story and what they could contribute to what was going on at that point in time. And then most importantly, closing the gap with the faculty so that we had a well-rounded full picture to continue progressing through that journey. And to go back, those intervention points took place at week 2, week 4, and week 8 in this collective approach.
Does anybody have any questions about this push-pull approach?
I was just going to highlight real quick a comment in the chat. Robin Roberts, hello. We had asked a question, how do you guys use as faculty those student dashboards earlier in the term? And she had mentioned that it's a great place to check out the advisor's name and contact information for reaching out to an advisor. Again, great suggestion there, Robin. Thank you for sharing that. And again, know that as Kelly was mentioning, that easy button is also an option for us as faculty, which is a pre-populated form that, again, kind of captures some of those preliminary details and goes right into the queuing system. And Kelly will talk a little bit more about how that works on the advisor side of the house. So thanks, Robin, for that comment there.
Well, what's good about that is the advisor has some history, as Kelly alluded to. So that could help us understand why somebody is struggling. There are many reasons for that, so it's good to know that ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Excellent. If there's no other questions, I'm going to go to the next slide then, Kelly.
Sounds good. So in this slide, we're going to cover and talk a little bit about what action that was taken by the advising team during the week 2 intervention point. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now is two of the templates that we utilized as a reference and as a guide when reaching out to our students. So at week 2, the faculty were involved, and on our end, the advisors identified any students that were registered in the 3 courses that are part of the pilot that started out this term with below a 2.5 GPA. So it was not grade related to the course at this point, but rather what can we do? If you're below a 2.5, we're going to say, we're going to consider you at risk. So what resources can we provide to promote your success throughout this term? And not only that term, but ongoing throughout your journey here with us at Embry-Riddle. And so the advisors picked up the phone and called every student that had below a 2.5 GPA. Most importantly, to just inquire, how are things going? You're in your 2nd week. Part of that conversation also contributed to sharing the resources. Have you communicated with your instructor? Are you aware of what their office hours are? Have they shared with you what their preferred method of communication is? When can they be contacted? We shared resources for time management, Vector, Compass, other resources within the university, etc. If we weren't able to get in touch with them via telephone, then the advisors have the opportunity to send a text message to students for those that are opted into text message. So they also used another form of communication to get in touch with our students while also sending that email that had the additional resources with the links tied into that. We received really good feedback from the students that we did connect with, and even some feedback post this pilot. We learned that this is a really good opportunity because of the feedback we received from the students, that we can actually take a more proactive approach moving forward and implement some of these resources in general with all of our students. So that was a really good takeaway from this as well. So that was the first Conflow at week 2 on the advising side. So I'll go ahead and turn it over. And Peter, I think you're going to talk about week 4.
Midterms. Okay. This really gives us a good gauge on how successful the team has been for the first 3+ weeks. Are we making sense? Are the students reacting the way we like them to? And I think that's important to take a step back and say, okay, what else do we need to do? And also, it's a good time to motivate the students. Say, hey, you've done a really good job so far. We're really proud of you. What else can we do to help you succeed? And I think that approach works well. Sometimes these students only hit a negative because the grades or whatever. So stepping in with the advisors and the faculty saying, hey, you did pretty good and keep up the good work. What else can we do for the rest of the semester to help you succeed? And I think they really appreciate this. As you see, that note gets sent out. It's a sort of an alert telling everybody what's going on. I usually follow up with a Zoom session with the student and make it a little bit more personal to find out what else I can do on that. And because sometimes they'll open up more when you're talking to them on a Zoom or Teams call and find out something's happened with their family or on the job or something like that. So that goes a long way. But this is a good way to, as I said, gauge how things are doing for the first half of the semester, and we can react when we know if we need to make some adjustments. Okay, on to slide 9.
Perfect. Before I advance the slide, I just wanted to highlight one of the comments also in the chat. Sydney mentions that sometimes we're finding that our students that are struggling have not even contacted their instructor at all yet. And this is where, again, we go back to that triangle and we say sometimes faculty know the story, sometimes students know the story, sometimes the advisors know the story, sometimes that, no, 2 of the 3 know a portion of the story. So that's exactly the reason why we wanted to go down this path, to say, perhaps just by knowing that one, the advisor reaching out because they have that, as Kelly mentioned, that relationship with the students beyond the start and the end of a term, they might open up and say, I'm just not comfortable, or I have not yet reached out, or I don't know how to reach out to this faculty member. And that advisor then can step in and provide and share some information so that the student does have that information, can take that action. And then again, in other times, the student might reach out to the faculty member and share a struggle that they might have, but the faculty member may not have the answer. The one quick, and it happened before midpoint, so I feel like now is a perfect time to share the success story. The one example that I'll share is at one point, or in this pilot, we had learned of a student that was struggling with the purchase of the resources for a particular course. Again, faculty, we don't have enough zeros in our paycheck to start issuing out, textbook, for students, but because we were able to connect the dots, that advisor was able to identify some funds for the student because the instructor reached out to the advisor and kind of connected that story and the need. And again, the success story there is the student was able to get what he or she needed to succeed in that term and get caught up. So thank you for sharing that, Sydney. Yes, we do find that that sometimes is the case, and sometimes it's the case where we've tried to reach out from the faculty perspective, or the advisor has reached out, and there's some, non-response. And so, again, this is where we're just kind of finding what's working and what's not working, and trying to support in those cases where we can, knowing that not every case is one that will likely turn out in the way in which we might hope it does. Nonetheless, the effort is there. So thank you. I'll move it on to our next slide, Kelly.
All right, so wrapping up the intervention points with week 8, the advisors were mimicking that pulse strategy, and they identified any of their students that were below a C going into week 8. Our goal at week 8 was to really identify what we could do to get those students to just to push through, to persevere, and to be successful in passing that class. So it really was more of a last minute support mindset. Have you communicated with your instructor? What can we do to help support you on our end? But most importantly, what do you need to do to cross that finish line? So I saw the warning note, so I'm going to pass it over so that we can keep moving to resources and next steps.
Warning. Slide 10, resource next. I think the most crucial aspect from my point of view as a faculty is making sure the faculty have buy-in to this. It's an extra effort on the faculty's part, but it's critical because they work with the students for 9 weeks, assignments, so it's a lot there. So if the student believes that the faculty member believes in them, to go a long way to supporting whatever it is that they're trying to do, including helping them succeed. One thing that the pilot showed that it was so successful that it became part of the College of Business strategic goal 2, and the team has been working on this. And one thing that Rachel said earlier, like I have a class, one of the courses, March courses involved in is 35 students. Half of them are COA. One is a COAS and the rest are COB. So it is a mix of colleges involved with this process. And what you see over here, faculty, students, resources, it's important because, and I'll talk about this in the next slide about resources. So if you would, Rachel, can move. Okay, this is on a test. But one thing on this whole thing that sort of doesn't surprise me, both faculty and students really don't know that this exists in its entirety. And even though we've encouraged students to check this out, I think faculty needs to be just as aware of all these services that are available on them because they could really help students succeed. And if the faculty knows this, it's just another tool, as Rachel said earlier, that can help in the process. So I've looked at this when I first saw this, and I could not believe how many different aids that are available to faculty and students on this. And they're all current. And so our key is to make sure that they know it's there for them. And if they have any questions, get back to the faculty, get back to the advisor, and we can help them move forward. Thank you.
Great. And on the advising end, we had some really good takeaways as well. Some of those takeaways led us into the creation of an at-risk dashboard. So we work heavily and primarily in Salesforce. And so the images that you're seeing is the creation of the new dashboard in Salesforce to assist advisors moving forward in monitoring their at-risk student population. And this will be rolled out beginning of May to the entire advising team, so crossing over all 3 colleges, and to implement immediately once they've been trained. And it will be a guide We'll take them through how to utilize the resource, the impact that it can have in supporting our students throughout their progression, term to term, throughout every course that they take with us, and what support, as Peter just mentioned, is available to them, setting them up for success.
Your word success. It's not just students, but I think faculty feel really good and advisors when we've all helped the student move forward.
Absolutely. And I just too wanted to comment on the reach of this. We mentioned this was a very small pilot that we launched in August. It involved 3 courses, as Kelly mentioned. But what we saw was some fantastic retention and academic performance improvements. So we benchmarked against 2 other terms, those same courses. And where we had traditionally seen a 5 to 6% grade below a C in those same courses in previous terms. Those 3 courses, 5 sections that were part of the pilot, we saw a 0.01. That's less than a 1% of a DW report coming in. So again, significant improvement between the benchmark and what we accomplished in that August term. Because it was small, though, we wanted to expand that, and we wanted to see what the impact could be if we offered this to a greater, extended this to a larger number of courses. So as Peter mentioned, we did launch this in the March term with some modification in 20 sections of the 4 courses that you see there on the screen. And we're trending to see some very interesting and similar metrics coming in. So the impacts, we're seeing again 45 students just in those at-risk categories over the 4 courses that we see there. Again, take that over the entire worldwide campus and the 15,000 enrollments that we have, and you could see the number could be very large and impactful. I think I ran a quick number, and it could be as high as 900 students that are kind of needing these additional support resources. So with that said, lots of great opportunity, and I'm going to give it back over to Peter to kind of close.
Thanks.
Also open it to Q&A.
Okay. Rachel, Kelly, thank you. On behalf of all of us, we thank you for participating on this. If you get the main idea about this, it's not just retention, which is important, but also helping our students have a really nice experience in college, because they're balancing work, families, social life, and taking courses. We've all been through that. It's difficult, particularly if they feel like struggling. I have 3 students who are on this odd risk, and they're doing quite well. Matter of fact, I meet with them every other week, but the one student who's struggling has a 3.9. It's not at risk going into this, but he needs some extra help on this. So sometimes that happens. Well, the August pilot got us to March, and we'll keep moving forward on this, getting more courses involved, more faculty, more advisors, more students on that. Because as you've heard today, it's making an impact with students. And I said, we want them to have a really nice experience here. And because student success often is converted into taking courses that help enhance their careers. So we're helping them in their life move forward on this. I think a next step would be continuing this with certain students at a mentoring program, whether it's Compass or something else, not just say it's the end of semester, bye, but I think make it available to some students who would like to have mentoring. Any questions for us, folks? I apologize for my voice. Any questions, folks?
It looks like there are 3 questions in the Q&A area about links, the document downloading, and being able to have access to that information.
So we can certainly look into that in collaboration with our partners there at DAI, and perhaps Cody, if you want to help just make sure that we can get the resources out to those that are joining today.
Yes,
John
I did send a note
Johnson.
to our technology team just to kind of troubleshoot that. So I've made a list of all the participants and we'll make sure that we have this session as well as any other impacted sessions updated. So keep an eye, keep this link in terms of the main lobby page and keep an eye out for everything to show up.
Perfect.
I also want to know what the easy button is.
So I was just gonna say, Rachel, do you want to share that? Because that's in Canvas.
Yes, absolutely. So the easy button is what we also refer to as the contact advisor tab. And for us as faculty members, you can get to that by going to the you're going to essentially go into your Canvas course and look at the grade book. From there, you click on the student's name and the contact advisor tab will pop up on the right side of your screen. It's very close to the top, right where you would typically find also the student dashboard. We have a resource, and Cody, I will be honest with you, I don't think this is one that we shared with the DAI ahead of time. But as a part of this pilot initiative that we did share with our faculty to tell them exactly how to get to that easy button and how to use it more importantly. And so if it makes sense, since the question was asked, we'll go ahead and give that to everyone that is joining today's call as a secondary resource as well.
Absolutely,
Thank-
Rachel. And if you want to email that to me or send it to me, I'll make sure it gets uploaded with everything else.
Thanks, John, for asking that question. Now I know what the easy button is. Well, folks, Cody, I thank everybody for joining us today, including my co-presenters, the dynamic duo.
Absolutely. If anyone else wants to come up and mute, we have a couple minutes left of this session. You're more than welcome to just open up mic, or we can go ahead and end early. I just wanted to extend on behalf of the Department of or Division of Academic Innovation. Thank you, Rachel, Peter, and Kelly, for sharing your wisdom and expertise and really highlighting the importance of the student experience. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think it's sometimes those little human connection points that make a big difference in a virtual world and in an academic world in general. So job well done, and thank you again, and we hope to see you this afternoon at our sessions as well as tomorrow. So for now, I'll leave the mic open just in case there's any other questions in the audience.
Going once, going twice.
Yeah, looks
Again,
like there's
thank
no
you for
At
everyone.
least
for
we
joining
got,
us.
we got to see Cody. We hadn't seen Cody in a while, so.
I love it.
you.
Yeah.
See familiar faces.